Decent and affordable housing is one of the basic needs of the individual, family, and the community at large. As a prerequisite to the survival of man, housing ranks second to food. Housing, observers say, has a profound influence on the health, efficiency, social behavior, satisfaction, and the general welfare of the community. These essential needs also reflect the cultural, social, and economic value of the society. The importance of housing in every life and national economy, no doubt, is enormous. The astronomical increase in population and urban dwelling has created a lot of pressure on social services, especially housing. The housing sector plays a critical role in the development of an economy, and it is one of the most important basic needs of man. It is an obligation for any government to provide affordable accommodation to its citizens. It is in the fulfillment of this obligation that the Loans Board was established in 1924 as African Staff Housing Scheme and became operational in 1954, and up to the eve of Nigeria's independence, its operations were still confined to the Federal Territory of Lagos. The board had several heads, which include Mrs. Oriagba FAT, 1973 to 2001, Secretary to the Board; Dr. Mrs. Okwosa AC, 2001 to 2005, Secretary to the Board; Mr. Meiji Mohammed, 2005 to 2007, Secretary to the Board, until July 2007, when Dr. Hannatu Fika became Director and Secretary of the Board. Since the establishment of the board in 1924 to date, it is on record that the numbers of beneficiaries has risen to about 300% in spite of various challenges facing the board. And this is because Dr. Fika knows that when workers are motivated through ownership of affordable houses, they will perform optimally and contribute more to national development.
The Federal Integrated Staff Scheme, in fact, is a wonderful scheme from the federal government, especially from the Byhari administration.
Thank you,
President Byhari. Say Baba. Thanks.
Dr. Hannatu Fika enumerates what it takes to be a beneficiary.
You must be a federal government worker, a public servant, a federal public servant, before you access our loan. And in trying to access our loan, you must collect a form from the board. And this form we charge 1,000 naira. Why do we charge 1,000 naira? Because we have found out that public servants will come. Today they will collect a form, they will not fill it. Next year they will collect another form, they won't fill it. So so it becomes a waste on us. So the board, we put a proposal to the board to approve that in order to, stop all these excesses of collection of forms, let us charge 1,000 naira. So if you pay 1,000 naira, I don't think you will come back again to collect another form. So you must buy this form from the board. And there are other informations attached to the form. You have to attach your employment letter. You have to attach an evidence that you are a confirmed officer. And then your ministry will now endorse all these forms and it is sent here. And we begin to process your application. And at the end of the day, you get the loan, depending on the amount of money that you have. There are some group of public servants who would apply today, and they want to be paid tomorrow. So what happens to the other civil servant who applied day before yesterday and is waiting for his turn?
Or the Federal Housing Loans Board itself was the pioneer institution of the federal government to work towards ensuring and enhancing both affordability and ownership of houses by civil servants. There is nothing in this world so degrading, so devastating, and so diminishing in terms of our lives as public servants as retiring after 35 years of service or after 60 years of age to retire to a rented accommodation. It's the pride of every civil servant. It's the pride of all of us to retire to our homes, at least to have shelter over our heads. That will be our own pride, that will be the pride of our families, and that will be pride of our associates and the society in general. So the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board has done a lot, particularly in keeping to the tempo of the public service reforms beginning massively from 2003 up to somewhere around 2013.
Up till 1974, workers' entitlement to loans under the staff housing scheme were only reflected in the scheme's regulations but not backed by any law or decree, although paragraph 11 of the Federal Government Staff Housing Board decree gives the board the power to amend any regulation with the approval of the Commissioner for Establishments, which the board ruled on, where it recommended to the Commissioner that an applicant's entitlement for a land loan should be increased to 2 times his annual salary, as against the maximum of 1 year's salary, and that the repayment period should correspondingly be extended to 10 years instead of the present 5 years.
A number of initiatives were carried out by the Federal Staff Housing Loans Board through the Federal Mortgage Bank, through the regular budgetary provisions of the federal government, the annual budgetary provision, etc. And it made life easy. A number of civil servants went into those soft loans in paying for their houses as owner-occupiers. But it was not taking the service to the desired land. If you see the demand, the population of service is very large, and if we are allowed to go and to continue to move the way it was provided between 2003 and 2013, a good number of officers would still languish without accessing the required funds to have their own homes.
The board, over the years, has been able to give intervention fund to alleviate the sufferings of workers.
During the demonetization program, public servants procured houses from the federal government, so they needed this change to uplift their houses. And one very important thing that I have been able to do during these years that I have been here, you recall ASO Savings and other mortgage banks gave civil servants loan to purchase their houses that were sold to them by federal government. And we noticed the difficulties that they were going through. At the end of the month, they had no salary. Sometimes they even had to, look for funds elsewhere to be able to service their loans. I put up a memorandum to my board to say that let us buy back the loans, the housing loans that were given to civil servants at 9.5% with other hidden charges, so that we will pay for it on their behalf, acquire their certificates, and then these loans will be given to them at 3% interest rate without hidden charges. And we have been able to do a lot. And then the second group of civil servants who bought houses under the Presidential Implementation Committee, the board also paid for all their houses in all the states of the Federation, which means that anywhere that you go in this country, we have a property. And until you liquidate your loan, that property is still the property of the federal government of Nigeria under the Housing Loans Board.
In the housing sector over the years, it has become clear that there is a need for the private sector to support, especially in the area of finance. This is the premise upon which the unique selling point to capture those who are not government workers with the aim of ensuring no one is left out.
Go to Lagos State today, you'll find out that the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board has facilitated quite a number of houses for public servants. And this, of course, we did not do it alone. We had partnership with the Federal Housing Authority, with the military, with the Lagos State government, and we had a synergy where they built houses, and then we paid for these houses for staff and as a loan, and then we deducted it from their salary.
Record shows that Nigeria has housing deficit of about 18 million, and the need for the government of the nation to ensure affordable accommodation to its citizens irrespective of their location in the country led to several efforts and policies which include Federal Integrated Staff Housing Program, FISH.
I'm informed that the FISH program has been given a reasonable size of land, and the FCT is also going to provide the infrastructure for that land. So that is going to go a long way in reducing the cost of houses ultimately to civil servants, because the cost of the land is free and then the infrastructure is being provided by FCT, unlike those estates that those private developers that transfer the cost of the land and infrastructure all to the cost of the houses.
It is also observed that the board is tremendously enjoying collaboration with private sector and other ministries, departments and agencies.
I've also been working very closely with the Family Homes Fund, and I'm sure you know the Family Homes Fund was set up recently also to provide, as part of the National Housing Program, to provide affordable houses to the low-income, especially low-income classes, of which most of our civil servants fall under, you see. So we've been having very useful discussion with the Family Homes Fund, and they are looking at how to help augment the resources of the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, for mortgage, loan and so on to civil servants.
Apart from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja and Lagos State, Dr. Hannatu Fika said the program is expanding its reach to other parts of the country.
Very soon we are getting out of Abuja to get to other states to commission houses under the FISH program. Anytime from now we'll be heading towards Calabar to commission an estate which we have funded for members of the FISH program. And again, even under our core programs, we hope before the swearing in of Mr. President in May, we'll be commissioning about 3 estates, one in Kurudu, another one in Lugbe, and then 2 in Kuje.
Computerization of the database of loans beneficiaries from the inception of the board in 1924, both in hard and soft copies, to enable all stakeholders access needed information on their loans status, is one of the innovations introduced by Dr. Hannatu Fika.
So that our applicants can go on internet, that is via our website, to log in and fill all the application forms. Once they fill the application forms, they will push it to our website, in which we here in our office will receive the application, then we'll now download it, apply all the file numbers, and we'll print and forward it or push it to registry so that the paper file can be opened, while with the electronic one will be pushed to operation for them to process their loans.
When this application comes, we send it to our ICT. They key in your name, you prop up automatically, which means that our system of data is very, very up to date. If you apply, before we even process, we send it to the ICT so that they can document your application and give you a file number. And when your application is done with, it comes back to that ICT data room also to take you on board as somebody whose application has been processed and you are now admitted as a loan beneficiary. One side is loan applicant and the other side is loan beneficiary. So that is how very effective our data is.
Other programs introduced by the Executive Secretary into the scheme include partnership with developers at Workers' Advantage, rent-to-own initiative, home renovation loan in partnership with the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria.
With the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, where we have a synergy on renovation loan, in order to, address the concerns of federal public servants who always complained that they are collecting, the monies are being deducted from their salary by Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria and they don't get anything out of it. We thought it is worth it for them, before they retire, to benefit from the pool of funds under the NHF. Even though if you take the aggregate of what a civil servant or a public servant, pays into the NHF, it is not up to what they get as a renovation loan. We started it with the present government in 2015, and as we go into the next level of the operations of this government, we are expanding the scope of that renovation loan into a scheme called rent-to-own. That is, the FMBN will build a house. They will allocate it to a staff who is an entitled officer, and then they will begin to pay rent on their own home. By the time that they finish paying, they will own their own homes. And already in 2016, between the two of us, we had agreed, to work together so that we can soften the burden on public servants, because public servants may not have enough cash to pay for a determined rent. So what are we expected to do? The Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board will move in so that we will give them loan, and we pay this loan directly to the Federal Mortgage Bank so that it will serve as the rent, and then we deduct it from their salary.
I've been dealing with the loans board since 2009, and I'm bold to say that the woman at the end of affair, Ajia Anatu Adamofika, is a mother who doesn't shy away from saying the truth where it is necessary. She's a thoroughbred professional who handles her job like every good professional should do. At every point in time, she reprimands anybody that has fallen short of their responsibility. And I'm bold to say that I've really learned from her. And if God permits, I still want to continue to learn from her. So far, so good. The relationship has been very good and very productive. We've rendered like 3-4 estates within the last 10 years. We've been able to provide like 2,500 houses for federal civil servants through our immense contribution.
The amendment of the Act that established the board, especially as it affects the increase of loan ceiling and tenure of the Chief Executive Office of the board by the National Assembly, which is almost done with, is another effort being put in place by Dr. Hannatu Fika to reposition the board.
I have been in the forefront of ensuring that the law establishing the board has tenure 5 years and then renewable by another 5 years, so that whoever takes from me after I have done my 10 years will serve 5 years, and then when they perform, government only reappoints you according to all laws. When they see that you have performed, then that person will have two tours. And my prayer is, may my successor have the commitment and transparency that I have been able to show in the board.
The board's budget allocation has scaled from 80 million naira to 2 billion naira in 2018 and 2019 to allow more public and civil servants benefit from the scheme, thanks to the Byhari-led administration.
So we are moving to the next level with pride and with energy. We are having feelers. If we are able to, do our justification well, government may give us additional funding.
The executive secretary rates the Byhari administration high in terms of housing for Nigeria.
They are doing very well. If you care to read, and if you are very good at looking at budget performance, you would agree with me that the housing sector has gotten its fair share of the budget of the country. I recall before this present administration came in, we had received as a budget 0 allocation, not once, not twice, and we were expected to lend a loan to public servants. If you are given 0 in a budget, I think the only thing you are expected to do is to close down temporarily the office that is charged with this responsibility. But we are happy under the present administration. The government of the day has been able to facilitate increased funding to us as their own corporate social responsibility. And with that, we have been putting smiles on the faces of federal public servants. This is why we are talking about commissioning of estates, and those who are building their own houses on their own are building, because the technical team of this board goes as far as to wherever that a civil servant chooses to build their own homes to monitor, so that determines the level of allocation of funds to officers.
The signing into law of the new minimum wage is now a plus for applicants, as it will make it easier for them during loan repayment.
For a long time, salaries have been very, very low, and the salaries, if I may say, never took anybody home. If you are in Mararaba or Kepi, the salary will drop you at AYA, and so on, if I can use that slang. So with the increase of the salary to 30,000 naira, with prudent management, and if our programs under the housing sector, is very successful, and you are able to own your own home, affordable, either under the Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, the Family Homes Fund, the Federal Mortgage Bank, if you have a house that you own, and then you have 30,000 salary, our deductions as repayment is very, very marginal. So people should be very happy. And as I have said over and over, one thing that the federal government allows its workers to do is to farm. So if you have your little farm, where you farm either beans, maize, yams, and you have your own house, and you have 30,000 as a salary, basic salary, we should be very comfortable. So we have to keep clapping for the present government for what they have been able to do.
Taking a look at the past, present, Dr. Fika has plans and policies on ground to take the board to an enviable one amongst other ministries, departments and agencies.
Well, remember me as a woman who likes to put smiles on the faces of human beings like me so that they feel comfortable.
As a woman who has risen to the pinnacle of her career, Dr. Hannatu Fika believes women perform better when given the opportunity to serve and want other women to do more in excelling in their chosen fields.
If you are a housewife, you have to have a dividing line between your office work and your home. In the office, I am the ES, that is the CEO of Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board. At home, I'm a wife and mother of my children. So, these are two different responsibilities. And I've been able to manage it very well because in the office, I have understanding and supportive bosses. And at home, I have a husband who understands, the value of a working class, housewife.
This contribution by Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board under the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation will no doubt help the federal government in fulfilling its role to provide affordable housing for Nigerians.